Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and again, as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. I do this too. Those of you who take walks late at night, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen while out there? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hype, and look and ask for shoutouts, and have fun. Two drunk guys fighting on a very busy sidewalk outside a bar. They were mid-grapple when one stepped off the curb by accident and dragged the other with him, right into the path of a truck. I was going to be on my way as there were a lot of bystanders, but ended up staying to give a statement when one of the drunk girls outside started saying one guy pushed the other in front of the car on purpose. I realized that everyone outside that bar was very drunk, and they immediately started parroting what the drunk girl was saying, all of which was completely inaccurate. She wasn't even facing the street when it happened. I walked my dogs down this canal, and one evening it got darker than usual. At one point they refused to go further into the down canal where it started going through the orchards. I heard a weird sound in the trees and see a large figure in the darkness. I don't know what it was, but it spooked my big old dog, so I wasn't trying to find out. I got a story. I was living in Radford, Virginia. I snuck out and was going to sneak into my girlfriend's. She lived on the opposite side of town, and I walked down a back road named Rock Road, like 12 a.m., probably 5 or 6 miles. Well, one section, about 300 yards long, was pitch black, no streetlights and no moonlight. Well, as I'm walking in the darkness, I heard something loudly hissing and growling at me, probably 3 feet away from me behind the guardrail. I couldn't see shit, and it caught me by surprise, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. I'm 29 now, and I'd say that is top 3 moments of me being truly terrified, and it was probably just a cute little possum, lol. I'm pretty sure I saw a mountain lion. We were eye level as I walked around 3 feet away from it. I just kept walking. I looked back as it climbed higher in the tree. It was dark, and I had only a headlamp on. I thought it was a tree stump. It could easily swipe me with its paw. Its face was bigger than mine. Some asshole threw his Christmas tree off his 4th floor balcony at the apartment building I lived at with my family growing up. It was wrapped in a black trash bag, and I guess he was too lazy to carry it down the stairs. Well, I was walking home from my friend's house after dark, and it was faster to walk through the patio door than going through the building because of the way it was laid out. Almost got crushed by the tree, and always looked up before stepping outside after that. Witnessed a late-night drug deal on a walk, made eye contact, just nodded and said, "Evening, gents," and kept on hoofing it. I figured I didn't want to see it coming if I was unlucky. Funny thing is, after that I passed the same area on walks and saw the same people. We almost became cordial those few years I lived in that neighborhood, lol. I used to live or work in Philly, and I did shipments for a retailer, so I worked really early hours. Had to be clocked in by 6 a.m. I took public transpo, so I was walking to the substation one morning and got followed by 2 guys wearing ski masks. They were yelling at me to turn around and stuff, but I obviously ignored them and called my manager to let me know what was happening. I think they heard me on the phone and assumed I was calling the police because when I looked over my shoulder, they were just gone. It was terrifying. A big dog racing silently toward me from a wooded pasture at about 4 in the morning while running. Saw him the first time from about 30 yards as he passed through the shadows. I lost him until he was about 50 feet from me. I was able to jump on top of a 6-foot fence to avoid getting attacked. I was starting a morning walk, 39 female, trying to get my steps for a contest at work. I just left my house. It was still dark, but we have streetlights in the neighborhood, and there are cars driving by once in a while, so I feel safe. I crossed the street and walked by the house with a front yard fence. Their dog runs up to me from the shadows and starts fiercely barking and growling at me. The dog is medium-sized and doesn't look that scary, but the aggressive nature and persistence of the barking and following makes my alarms go off. Then I turn around and realize I'm not alone. On the other side of the road is a large man that looks hairy and disheveled, wearing a big roll of duct tape on his wrist like a bracelet. He was walking toward me, crossing the street. Luckily, I wasn't far from home and booked it, made it inside, and locked the door. The man didn't chase after me, but did show up in my driveway minutes later, snooping around. Cops were called and he was taken away. Later found out he was a mentally ill individual not on his medication. And last, home address, more than 2 states away. I live in the U.S. I haven't walked alone since. Not walking, but taking the garbage out at 3 a.m. The dumpster was in an alley behind my building. To the left was more alley that led to the parking lot, and to the right was more alley that led to the back of a commercial building, then a sharp curve that leads to homes. I took the garbage out, and to the right, standing still in the middle of the road, was a slender man-looking thing. Never took garbage out that late again. Actually, it's very peaceful. I think I kind of intimidate everyone else, so I get left alone. At the time, I was doing the One Punch Man workout every morning when I woke up. Some fun stuff I've seen through is once a deer followed me on my walk for about a mile. Every time I stopped, he would stop. Another time, I came across a homeless man crying under a bridge. So I talked to him and ended up buying us both big beers, and we sat in the park during them, talking about our lives, and he started crying, saying no one has ever been that nice to him in his life. Nice. I start work at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I walk to work as it's only 20 minutes away. Anyway, I was walking past a row of houses on my way to work. This massive dog in one of the gardens suddenly started aggressively barking at me and tried to go for me. Thankfully, it was behind a gate, so it couldn't do anything, but I was genuinely worried it was going to maul me for about a few seconds, and I was pretty rattled for a few minutes afterwards, as my heart was pumping so fast. Oddly enough, I've not had that problem before or since, and I've been doing this commute for a year now. It's starting to motivate me to get my driving license, though I can't afford a car or get a bike. The Fetty people, groups of homeless folk, toasted on Fetty laying everywhere, sometimes piled up like a cartoon football pile. Half of the sidewalk, half in the street, like they got no bones, or they are bent over on top of their heads on their toes and still standing somehow. They don't move. You gotta get close to see them breathe. The whole area smells like popcorn and car keys. Walking around a pond, there's no moon, pitch black, dark, and the path is heavily tree-lined. I see groupings of blue lights coming at me, moving back and forth across the path. I stop and start yelling, "Hello?" The lights start racing toward me. I turned around and went back toward the last street light I passed, and 5 dogs with blue light dog collars run past. Never been more freaked out. A friend and I, we were 18 at the time, were walking past a dimly lit schoolyard at midnight when we saw a man peering at us from behind a dumpster. He started following us, and I told my friend to run, and he ran after us all the way home to her place. We ran inside and locked the door. About half an hour later, my friend's brother comes home and tells us that a man just took off out of the bushes when we were right by her front door. Never been so afraid in my life. I was in Athens visiting my son and couldn't sleep well most nights. I could go for a walk, starting at like 3:30 or 4 local time. I stayed in a nice area, but if I walked north, it would get a little sketchy. I think it was north, anyway. So I'm walking, and this group of young men start talking to me and harassing me in Greek. I do not speak Greek. I finally stopped and turned around and said, "I don't know what you want from me. I cannot understand you. Leave me the f*** alone." They spouted off some more and walked off. Side note, Greeks are not very big. There I'm an XXXL. In the US, I'm just an XL. I towered over those young men. Some bikers beating the shit out of a guy outside a bar I was just walking by. They were using bats and shit. Went home quickly and checked the news a few hours later, mentioning a guy got killed outside of said bar. I didn't see it, nor heard it, unfortunately, but when we were kids, we lived in Section 8 housing, and there was this weird ditch-like thing behind us. Unfortunately, someone has taken this girl and, then left her for dead. I don't know if she survived or not, but a neighbor found her when he was letting his dog out to use the restroom. Not sure if they caught him or not, as I was maybe 10 or 11, so bad memory, and I'm not sure if they ever released info due to her being a minor. It's a wealthy area, and I'm a member of the working class, so sometimes my neighbors follow me home in their cars, accusing me of being a thief, or their idiot teens catcall me. Could be a lot worse since I'm white, and I know they'd be so much worse to people of color, but I resent it anyway. Ironically, I used to walk home at night in two cities considered dangerous by the white wealthy people here, and not one person in them ever gave me any trouble. It's the entitled paranoid rich pricks every time. Was running on bushy trail near my place. It was late at night and it was just me. A super ragged looking coyote must have slinked out of the bushes and started trotting diagonally about 5 meters behind me. Can't really pinpoint what made me realize it there. He was super focused and was maintaining an exact distance, like he was what you see on those documentaries. My heart rate shot through the roof. I just tried to pick up the pace without changing my cadence and trying to play it cool, and headed for the closest busy street. When I got to the road, he slinked away. That was terrifying. I had just moved to a very rural area and started a second shift, 4 p.m. to midnight. Job almost immediately. The first night driving home as I passed by a large country cemetery. As I'm passing through the drizzle and mist, I see a faint blue fireflies flying over many of the graves. This was winter and fireflies are a soft yellow-green. I slowed down and stopped in the church parking lot across the street to observe. I was mesmerized and very freaked out. As I sat there watching, they slowly went out one by one. This was in the days before camera phones, or I'd have plastered that all over the internet. The next day I drove back through the cemetery and saw the culprit. Dozens of these solar-powered dancing butterflies. I had never before seen anything like that. Being a single guy fresh out of the military, and the idea of putting night lights over your loved ones' graves was alien to me. Alright, short and sweet shout-outs today to Lisa Graz 916. Hello, your shout-out has been heard and read. Anyone else, please feel free to reach out. Hope you guys are heading up for a great weekend. I got a busy one myself, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it. And for those of you revelers all around the world that enjoyed, happy Hallows Eve. Halloween tomorrow. I was living in rural Zambia while in the Peace Corps and was walking along a bush path after dark, which was fairly unusual. I had my headlamp on and it was particularly dark night, probably a new moon or close. As I was swinging it back and forth, I caught something to my left and looked over. About 20 feet away, I saw two of the largest eyes I'd ever seen, absolutely shining in the light of the headlamp, staring back at me at about head level. I stopped in my tracks and looked for a bit. It disappeared for a second and then reappeared in the same way a few moments later in a slightly different position. A little later, it disappeared again and didn't come back, and I eventually continued onwards. It was a pretty unnerving experience in the moment, but after thinking about it later that night, I realized what I saw was probably a Galago bush baby in a tree. Seeing wildlife was exceedingly rare, so in hindsight, a very cool experience. Walking around an open space behind a grocery store at night. It was not paved and no visible private property or no trespassing signs. After 10 minutes of wandering and talking with a guy I was seeing, this truck came close to us. It was uneven ground, and when we hit the gas with his brights on, we ran out of the way. Behind the truck was a massive dog snarling and barking at us. My friend grabbed a large rock, pushed me behind him, and when the dog started lunging forward, about to get hit in the head with a rock, the owner whistled him back. Basically just my imagination. I walk my dogs between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day regardless of the weather, so most of the year it's pitch dark and I take them on a trail through the woods. One morning I saw these white things bobbing through a yard, and my brain immediately told me they were the Fresno nightcrawlers. It was the tails of white-tailed deer. I wear a headlamp, but its scope isn't very strong. I enjoy the darkness, but I gotta see where my feet go. The headlamp often picks up eye shine of animals off the side of the trails, typically deer or people's pet cats. Most of the animals quietly dart away without me knowing what kind of animal it is, other than close to the ground cat or higher up deer. This one morning, I caught eye shine mid-level that lowered a bit while I watched it. No worries, animals are more scared of us, it will move. But it didn't. So as I got closer, I started jumping and yelling, "Hey!" and being loud and noisy. This animal was not moving. Then I heard a "hey." It was another dog walker with a German pointer who stops and points at all dogs and won't move till the other dog passes. I had a good laugh with the other walker, but did tell him that he should at least wear something high-vis so light would reflect a little bit. So this actually happened, and nothing spooky ever happened to me. Was at a park at night, walking through with my partner that had a cemetery in it. As we were walking by the cemetery on the path through the park, we suddenly heard a loud hissing sound that filled the air. Except the hissing sound seemed to be omnidirectional, coming from all directions at once. I was looking around trying to discern where the noise was coming from, only to realize it was coming from various directions. Adding to this, it was a very windy night, and at the same time the wind was blowing all the trees around us. As I looked up at the trees blowing, the hissing sound grew louder and louder and more ominous. It began to sound like someone was almost speaking. It started to sound exactly like Parseltongue from Harry Potter. There was this feeling of pressure in the air, weighing down on me, and this sense of being trapped in this area and the periphery fading away. Partner got freaked out, so we left. I half-jokingly said it was probably the yokai of the park, who were angered at our presence. Partner would not go by that park at night for almost a year, for fear of whatever was there being an actual spirit. A woman known in town as a bit of a loose cannon, she kept pretending like she was going to jump in front of traffic a couple of times and had the cops called on her because she was on her balcony aiming a broomstick and someone thought it was a rifle. She was standing under a streetlight on a small forest path I was walking on while smoking a joint, and she had a razor blade that she was tracing lightly over her arms. I had to pass her, and I was so stressed she was going to come at me. I had a watch that started at 4 a.m. It was across base from my barracks, a very hilly and old base in Connecticut. Walking alone to get to the building for my watch, I had to walk past a lake to go up a set of stairs, and it was all surrounded by large trees. As I walk up the stairs in the pitch black, I hear the leaves next to me start to move. At the time, I didn't really think about it. Figured it was the wind. Then I heard hiss. Grabbed my phone, flipped on the flashlight to see a possum the size of a house cat staring directly at me. Laugh about it now, but at 3:45 a.m. by myself, I was scared shitless. The sheriffs. Because I'm just taking a walk at night trying to get exercise, and then I hear a car hauling ass up the street before the one I am on, and it's the sheriffs that know exactly who I am. There's no cars coming up the street when I'm walking on it, and all I'm doing is walking around the block. They start questioning me, then they have this future non-law enforcement carry out predatory behavior by driving around the block to see where I'm going. It's pretty disgusting of them. Their little goons trespass all over people's property and they deny it. They even climb over people's fences. I expect it though. The community used to prey on me when I was a young child. Sickos. What? I was walking through a park at night with a couple of friends when we notice a group of young guys start making a beeline toward us. Then a lady walks past us, and there's a group of guys changing their direction to start following the lady. As soon as they round the corner out of the park, we hear a blood-curdling scream and 3 to 4 shots being fired. I called the police and ran the hell back home and never went through that park at night again.